Hey everybody, so my name is Emily Van Dyke, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit about assistive and augmentative technology, as well as show you my own creation. So let's get started. Okay, so to create my own little assistive technology, I went through the process in kind of 3 different steps to create it. So the very first step that I took was I took some notes just so I knew what I would need to create my device. So I wanted to learn like what assistive technology really was. I just wanted to make sure I had that definition down pat. And I also wanted to um, kind of figure out the different characteristics of it, the different types there are, different, and I even wanted to like find different examples or different types of augmentative communication so that I could kind of have something to go off of, but I just really wanted to know different characteristics like methods of display or different types of speech, and just so I could again just really know the features of them, and so I could really pick and choose what kind of features I wanted my device to have just so I could make it how I wanted it. Um, the very next thing I did was I kind of went through all of the information that I found, and I put together a list of different features that I wanted my device to have. So, and I even thought of a few different things to make it unique, and so I kind of made this really long list, not that long, but I made this list of the different things that I wanted it to have, and then I kind of narrowed it down a little bit more, and I picked and chose, added some stuff, and then finally it kind of came down to what I really wanted it to have. And then the very last step of my creation process, which was probably like the easiest and most fun, was that I went through and I really drew what I wanted my device to look like. So I was able to draw where I wanted different buttons to be, and I was able to just really kind of just make it my own, which I thought was really exciting. So my device is going to be kind of set up like a Dynavox, and so um, throughout my research and throughout the class, I've kind of learned about different augmentative technologies, and I really liked the idea of being able to help students communicate better and giving them the ability to actually communicate with those around them, to say their needs and wants. And so I thought it would be really cool to just kind of make another option. Now, like I said, I did draw it, so I didn't actually make it because I don't have the skills to do that or the time or the money. So I drew it out for you just so you guys would have an idea of what it is. This is just a picture of my notes. I know that you said that you would like us to kind of show some proof that we actually did what we were doing, um, or did what we said we were doing. And so these are my notes. As you can see, I kind of have, um, at the very top, I kind of have some different, well, actually, at the very top of my notes, I have kind of the rubrics or the different things I needed to know. And then I went in and I just kind of noted that there's different types of technology and different things like that. And then I went in to talk about how there's 3 different types of it. There's different types of speech outputs, and there's different types of displays and things like that. So I just went through and learned all about it. And then finally, on the last page of my project, I have gone through and put all my ideas, which I discussed earlier in this video, and really wrote down all of the different features that I wanted my device to have. So the very first thing I did when creating my technology was really defined what it was. I know that IDEA has this definition that I have displayed, and I thought it was a really good thing to go off of to really learn what it was. So let's get to it. IDEA defines assistive technology as any item, piece of equipment, or product system whether acquired commercially, off-the-shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of a child with a disability. So, this means that an assistive technology is pretty much anything that can help a child or keep a child where they're at, or improve their capabilities for a child with a disability. So this item can be bought, it can be made, it can be customized, modified. It's really just anything that can be used to increase, maintain, or improve the skills of a child with a disability. And so then in my notes, I went to discuss different device categories. And so I kind of came up with 3 different types of categories. So the categories are basically augmentative communication devices with digitized speech output, ones with synthesized speech output, and then there's even another category with synthesized speech output, but it's a little bit different than the first synthesized speech output category. So the first category, augmentative communication devices with digitized speech output, they're natural sounding. They include pitch, melody, and resonance. It's pre-recorded speech, which is great because it sounds more natural, but is also not so great because it's limited. So it will only have pre-recorded sayings or words or phrases and stuff. So if you're like looking for natural, and even if it's for a child who doesn't speak a ton, like it can be good for that, but it is limited, so that is one downside. Excuse me. The next device is augmentative sorry, not device. The next category is augmentative communication devices with synthesized speech output. This category, it requires message formulation by spelling and device access by physical direct contact. So you have to spell out what you want it to say, and you have to use direct selection techniques. So you can't, it's a little bit limited in that way. And lastly, the last category is augmentative communication devices with synthesized speech output. So this type permits multiple methods of message formulation and multiple methods of device access. So you can use many different ways to select what you want, and you can use many different methods to actually tell the device what you're looking for. Next in my notes, I went on to characteristics. So as you can see, I came up with kind of 3 different categories of characteristics, each kind of having their own subcategories. The first method is the display method. So in this characteristic set, it's going over whether the display is dynamic or static. So dynamic devices is kind of when the user selects a location on the device, and the device either speaks a message immediately or changes what appears on the screen. So in my mind, it kind of acts like a portal. So certain buttons that you click on will just say whatever, but other things will lead you to different categories. So say the child was looking for some food to eat. So the first category they would click on would be food, right? And then the next would be different types of food. So like fast food or Asian, Mexican, and then it would bring up, or fruits, vegetables. And then depending on what you clicked on, it would bring up different words that the child or student could select. So the next is a static display, and this is set up kind of like a computer keyboard. So it has a fixed layout of letters, numbers, and punctuation marks and operational command keys. And basically when you click on those, so like say you clicked the letter A, it would type in the letter A. So you don't, it's a little bit, it could possibly make speech take a little bit more time because you have to type out each and every letter, punctuation mark, and everything instead of kind of selecting different, like, words as a whole. The next characteristic I found was methods of storing and receiving data. So there are two different things that I found, and I tried to understand these the best that I could, but it's levels and encoding. So each cell shown on the display can produce more than one message. So in my mind, I'm pretty sure that levels go along with dynamic displays. So like you click on food, and then you click on Mexican, and then you click on tacos. Like, it's leading you from level to level to level. And then there's encoding, which I think goes along with static displays. And so it's letter or iconic codes as a way to kind of store and retrieve messages. So I tried to understand this best I could, but from what I understand, it's when you can type in a different code or a different set of numbers or letters, and it can bring up a message. And so, to me, the best way to understand this would be, I don't know if you have an iPhone or what, but iPhones have like text replacement, and so in my mind, like when I type BRB, it's encoded to bring up the words be right back. So that's kind of how I think of it in my mind. I don't know if that's right, but I'm trying, so that's what matters. But and lastly is the last characteristic is rate enhancement, which is basically prediction. So like, can the device predict the words that you're thinking or the phrases that you're thinking, which can be extremely helpful because I imagine that having to type out every single word can get a little bit tedious at times. And prediction can definitely make that easier and faster. So next, I went on to learning about the variety of device accessories. So these are kind of different things that you can add to the device, which not all of them are necessary. Like, you may not need some of them, but they're all different things that can come in handy, especially for people who have limited mobility. So there are kind of like 5 main things that I found. The very first one I think is a biggie. So it's basically like switches and keyboard I think I'm supposed to say adaptations there, but and selection and pointing devices. So these can come extremely handy for those who don't have that great of mobility or cannot use their hands easily. So there are different switches and keyboard adaptations and devices to allow users to use the device. And then there are mounting systems. So I know we watched a couple of different videos of children with cerebral palsy, and the devices were mounted for them so that they would be able to select what they wanted and they wouldn't have to hold up the device at the same time. Excuse me. Then there are carrying cases, and so carrying cases can come in handy so that you can bring it wherever you are, make it portable. And then there's power accessories, because you do have to keep in mind, like, these are electronic technologies. They do need to be charged, and so that's something that you need to take into consideration. And lastly, there's the software type. So there's a whole bunch of different softwares out there, and getting the right one for your student or child is really important. Hold on one sec. Gotta go back. Okay, so then I found ways to access technology, which I know we kind of went over in our book, but this really helped me to figure it all out. And to really just understand what each and everything was or is. And so the first that I learned about was non-electric ones, which I knew these pretty well because I had either seen them or, learned about them or things like that. And so these are things like which is interesting enough because so the first one is a handheld stylus, which a lot of like phones will kind of come with them now, and so it's interesting that they're kind of becoming more, I don't know, widestream or something. But there's also pointers, which can be like your head or your feet, and then there's splints, keyboards, and mouse sticks. And then there's electric direct ones, which I think are really cool. And even the indirect electric ones are cool. But for electric direct access methods, we have light pointers, infrared pointers, eye gaze systems, joysticks, optical head pointers, and head controlled mice. And lastly, for indirect electric, we have pneumatic switches, rocking lever switches, and tread switches. And so now we can come to the actual creation of my device, what my device is, and I can start to tell you a little bit more about the idea and the process and what my vision is for it. So my device is an app that is compatible for any operating system, whether it's iOS or Android or whatever it is. You can access it. So you could access it on tablets or iPads or anything. So it's relatively medium tech, and it's low or maybe even low tech, but it's a low cost assistive technology. You know, a lot of people already have tablets and iPads, and so um, having access to one would be, I think, relatively easy. They're not super expensive, and hopefully the actual app itself wouldn't be expensive either. But it's relatively easy to access. So that's kind of my idea behind it. Um, the only drawbacks I could see is that because it is an app, it probably has a size limit. So I can see why there are things like the Dynavox that are just a complete different device on its own, because they have a big job to do. They got a lot of things, a lot of messages, a lot of information to store up. So I don't know if this app is actually possible, but I think it's a pretty cool idea. Okay, so what are the features? To come up with this, I kind of went through like all of the information that I gathered, and basically I just picked and chose the different things that I found interesting and kind of picked which things I thought went well together and which things would actually make my device be how I want it to be. And so the first thing that we're going to talk about are the features. Or not the first thing, but the first thing about my device that we're going to talk about are the features. So I think that it'd be cool if there were like a variety of mounts to make it accessible. So this would be great so that everybody could be able to use it. I really don't want to be limited to a select group of individuals. Like, I just think it'd be really cool if it, because I feel like it's so easy to access because it's just an app. I feel like so many people should be able to have access to it. So I would like there to be like a wide variety of mounts, which could be kind of cool. I feel like it could be easy to do because if you buy like, we could have it set up so that there's like a case that you can buy that can easily snap into like a whole bunch of different mounts. So that all you really have to do is buy one case and then whichever mounts that you need, and it would be easily transferable to different mounts. Next, I was thinking that it'd be really cool if it could use different methods of accessibility. So it could use non-electric like a stylus or a head or foot or something like that, and then also use direct methods. So like maybe it could use an infrared pointer or things like that, because how cool, like, or maybe even there could be a way to like sync up an eye gaze. I don't know. There's so many possibilities and it's so cool. And I just, I think of like Stephen Hawking and how successful he was and all of the great technologies that he's created and how easily he could communicate with us. And I just think that it'd be really cool to create more devices like that, or methods of, whatever. But so the next thing I thought about, which it says static display, but I think I meant to put in dynamic because I don't want static. Um, and even looking at my drawing, you'll be able to tell that. But I would like it to have a whole bunch of different categories. So I wanted it to be a pretty big app, and I thought I like the idea of a static display, but I feel like I could make it a lot more customizable and personable if I made it dynamic with lots of different layers and levels. So, and I even thought it would be very cool, like if you could customize the categories or the little buttons that I would put on there. So, like, it would be really cool if you could like sync it up to a computer or something and customize the categories and download new information depending on the person, because everybody's growing and developing. So it's good to have it's nice to have um, the words there that you need. As I'm struggling to say words myself, but I think it would be really cool if you could use message and word prediction. So I would really like the software to be fast enough to predict what the user is saying or spelling. So while it is a, a dynamic display, I'm sure that I could have it set up so that there's an alphabet in there and that you could predict what you're saying. And lastly, I'd like to utilize synthesized speech. Now, I really like the idea of um, digitized speech. But because this app is so big and because there's such a wide variety of words, I feel like it would be really hard to go in and get all the phrases and words that we would need to actually make it accessible. Because I remember I was watching this video about the woman who is the voice for Siri, and she was talking about how she went in for months to do Siri's voice. And and to me, it seems like Siri doesn't actually say that many different things. I mean, she does, like names and things like that, but I don't know. I feel like if I use synthesized speech, that there could be there could be a lot more words that the user could use, and I just thought it would be a better overall um, speech for this device. Okay, now for accessibility, I feel like this device is pretty easily accessible. It's fairly simple to use. It comes with different mounts mounts and carry cases and different things like that. Um, there's a wide variety of ways that students can access it themselves. They can use um, non-electric and direct electric methods. So, um, so it's fairly easy to use. It should be easily accessible, so students with different disabilities or limitations should be able to use it. And not to mention, hopefully the app is low cost. So the only thing that the um, student or parents would have to pay for would be the actual tablet or iPad, and then any other mounting devices that they would need. Which hopefully the mounting devices could be not expensive as well. So it'd be really cool um, if we could attach them to wheelchairs or attach them to wherever students need to be, like maybe we could create a wall mount or different things like that to kind of just make it as easily accessible as possible. Now, how does my device promote language and communication needs for students with a autism spectrum disorder? So, this technology is going to give students an easy way to communicate with those around them. So it's going to allow them to ask questions or give answers during lessons. It'll give students a chance with AAC to be social with their peers, because ASD is a social and communication disorder. And so giving the students a device that can help them speak will be wonderful for them, because though they might not have the ability to speak, they're able to communicate with their peers. And hopefully, just having peers will help them socially and emotionally. Um, it will encourage students to use language and communicate with those around them. So hopefully when giving students this device, they will want to communicate with others, share things with others, and learn from others. And lastly, the system is adaptable. So software can be added to add more words and phrases as the students learn. So um, as the students communicate more and as they learn more, that's not going to limit them. We can always add in more words so that they can keep learning and communicating and furthering along their speech as they grow and develop. Because when we start off, when all of us start off, we don't really know anything, and the older we get, the more words we learn, and so why should it stop? Even though the child is older, I think that they should still have the ability to keep adding in new words. Now, for training, I feel like the device is fairly simple to use. The main key to using it will be just memorizing where things are and learning the features. So, learning maybe different codes or layers or learning where everything is. So, you know, like when you move into a new house, you have to learn where you put everything and you have to set it up how you want. Like, that's going to be what the device is going to be like. So, I think it'll mainly just take time. I think the best way to actually do the training is to just walk the students and families and teachers and administrators through the device, show them where everything is, and just kind of sit with them until they're comfortable with the device and just be there and answer any questions that they have. I think it would also be important to remind the student to utilize the device because the student might not be used to using a device to communicate, so it'd be important to remind them. And also, I can understand that maybe students would get frustrated with the device, not knowing where things are. So I think it would be important to give the student enough training so that they don't get frustrated. Excuse me. Okay, so for special features, so these are the things that I really had a lot of fun with because special features are awesome and they're way cooler than my other features. So these are the things that I'm really excited about. But users will have the option to type out what they want to say, which I guess isn't that special because that's what Down at Box does and different things like that. I think it'd be really cool if it could be easily chargeable through a special wireless case. So you know how I mentioned earlier about a special case that snaps into different mounts? Well, um, I think it'd be really cool if there could be a wireless battery that's in the back of that case. So whenever you're done with it, you can just take it off the mount and set it down on a little pad, a charging pad, and then just pick it up whenever you're ready to go. So it'll take away the hassle of trying to plug in a cord and finding cords and different things like that. Um, this next part is my favorite part. So I don't know if this is possible, but I think it would be really cool if there was a video capability of recognizing and translating ASL. So say a student with AAC is using the device to communicate and they're using ASL, but they're with someone who doesn't understand ASL. So they can hold up someone can hold up the tablet or the tablet can be mounted. The student can do their ASL and then it will type the words out or say the words out loud for another student, which I think would be really cool. And maybe it could even go vice versa. Maybe if a student doesn't know ASL, but they're trying to communicate with a child who does have ASC, they can type their words and then maybe the tablet could show them a video of what the ASL would look like. But there's such a wide variety of things to do. It's exciting. So, but next thing is that I kind of already talked about this. It's highly adaptable, so you can change the layout, add words, phrases, and categories. And lastly, I think it'd be cool if there'd be a variety of languages. So, I know that typically the user might only know one language, but there's so many different people in this world, and let alone there are so many different people in our country that speak different languages. So it'd be really cool if I could be able to customize it so that you could do that. And lastly, these are my references. So I mainly use two different sources. The first one I used was our book, and that's where I got the definition of IDEA and different things like that. And lastly, I went on to this super awesome website, um, and it was at ogcommonc.com or something like that, and it just went in and listed different types of augmentative communication devices and helped me with my categories and different things like that. So these two devices, no, sorry, not devices. These two different references really helped me, and they really, really helped shape my learning overall. And I didn't cite this, but I also went on Google and kind of just Googled different augmentative devices just so I would know a little bit more about what they look like and features and things like that. So, but I tried really hard not to, um, not to, copy anything, but I did. Oh, I just realized that I forgot to go over my visual display with you guys, so I'm just gonna go back to that real quick. But, so as you can see, I kind of drew it out like an iPad, and I have my different categories with different layers inside, and so you can, if you go to click ABC or 123, it'll kind of click in, like, you can type what you want, and then if you hit speak, it'll speak it for you. You can even, there's even like a little category that will show you ASL signs in case you forget one or need to learn a new one. And then there's the ASL translator. There are predictions. So if you go to the predictions tab, you can type in a word, click it, and then it'll kind of pop it up to your little word bank that you got up there. And then I have a place for settings, and then I'm not sure why I included a more options and a settings. I think the more options, oh yeah, more options would be like you would click that to go to a second page of categories or something like that. But yeah, so this is my assistive technology, and I hope you like it. Thanks for watching. Bye.